Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here. In this video, we're taking a look at the vsFighter from Leafcutter Labs. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, I picked up the vsFighter from Leafcutter Labs for $90. The vsFighter is an all-button arcade controller, or an all-button fight stick, or a leverless fight stick, whatever you want to call it. It's designed specifically for fighting games, but it doesn't have to be used just with fighting games. And taking a look at the keycaps here, there's far more keycaps than buttons. After sorting everything out, there's a total of 19 keycaps, which is a really weird number. You can put black keycaps on this entire controller, or you can do a mix of black and color, but you will need at least 5 black keycaps. Personally, I would have liked to have seen at least one more colored keycap just to balance this out. On the plus side here, the keycaps are nice quality molded plastic. All you have to do to install them is just press them on the buttons. Now taking a closer look at the micro switches included with the vsFighter, and they are a Temu black switches. They are linear and they have a 65-gram actuation force. If you don't like these, you can switch them up. The 4 top buttons on the vsFighter are LS, RS, Select, and Start. And you can see it connects via USB-C. The bottom of the vsFighter features a nice foam pad. It holds itself pretty steady on a desk, and the foam pad covers the entire bottom of the controller. Taking apart the vsFighter is simple and straightforward. There's 6 Phillips screws on the top and 6 Phillips screws on the bottom. If you wanted to put your own custom artwork in here or change up the micro switches, you only really need to remove the 6 screws from the top. Once you remove the 6 screws, you can take off the plexi here, and then you're free to do what you want. All of the micro switches are hot swappable. The main PCB has Kale hot swaps. The main PCB is sandwiched between 2 different plates, one on the top and one on the bottom. I did notice that there is quite a bit of flex here, both from the top and the bottom plates. I wish there were some more supports on this. You can see the further I get away from these supports, the more flex there is. And this thing flexed from every single side. You can see when I squeezed around one of the main posts here, there's hardly any flexing. So I do wish they included some other posts or just some other supports around the outside of this thing. I did notice when I screwed this back together, I accidentally tightened the screws up just a little bit too much, and you can see that the PCB is warped a little bit. To fix this, I had to loosen up the screws a bit. So if you do take this apart, just be careful on how much you tighten those screws. And for those of you wondering, the design on the top of the plexi here is just a protector. The plexi is clear. From a button cap perspective, I decided to have a little bit of fun here, and I mixed up the colors and black. Again, they included a ton of keycaps, so you can switch it up quite a bit. In terms of size for the vsFighter, it's about 3 3/4 inches from top to bottom, around 8.5 inches from side to side, and just over a 1/2 inch thick, or thinner if you squeeze it. For size comparison, if you are curious, here is the vsFighter beside the Snackbox Micro. Here is the vsFighter stacked on top of the Snackbox Micro. And here's the vsFighter back to back with the Snackbox Micro. If you are curious, here is the Snackbox Micro beside the vsFighter sitting down on a table, and they're almost the exact same height. To give you a more practical perspective on the size, here are my hands covering this thing. It is not very big. By design, there is no palm support on this, which might actually work out and help prevent it from flexing. And I don't necessarily recommend placing this on your lap to use it unless your legs are pushed together. Even then, it might not be that comfortable to use. In my opinion, this is best suited to be used on a desk or a flat surface, and the foam pad included does an excellent job keeping this in place. At the time of filming, the vsFighter is compatible with the PC via X input and the Nintendo Switch. You can see here I've got it plugged into my Nintendo Switch running Ultra Street Fighter 2, and the vsFighter is working beautifully. Everything's coming out as intended, the controller is extremely responsive, and I'm very happy with it. Interestingly enough, the vsFighter doesn't have a home button, so to get home on the Switch, it makes up for it with a button combination. You have to press and hold Start and Select, then press the up button, and that will bring you home. So I've had the vsFighter for a number of weeks now, and I've had the chance to thoroughly test it out on the Switch and on PC. So let's get into what I like about it, what I didn't like about it, and whether or not I recommend it. And we'll start out with what I didn't like about it. The first thing I don't like about the vsFighter is how much it flexes. It flexes a lot, and it flexes extremely easily. I do wish they put some more supports around the outside of this to make it feel a little bit more sturdy. But at the same time here, I mean, there really isn't room for your palms to rest on this thing. It is meant to sit on a desk. so I don't necessarily know how much this will flex just from regular daily use. If you press down on the buttons extremely hard and you use this quite a bit, I might be worried about it at that point, but if you're a pretty light user, just a normal user, this might not bother you at all. The second thing I don't like about the vsFighter is the fact that it ships with 19 keycaps. I wouldn't have minded seeing one extra keycap just to round things out and also to improve customizability. Or just on the other hand here, having my choice in colors that I can order. And speaking of choice, the next thing I don't like is the fact that I can't choose my micro switches. I would have gladly paid a couple of extra bucks to have Cherry MX switches. I also don't like that there's not a dedicated home button, so if you're using this on the Switch, you do have to use a button combination. The button combination works, and that's a big plus, but it also is a bit annoying. The last thing I don't like about the vsFighter is the fact that the USB-C cable sticks out quite a bit. The connector is shallow, it's right on the edge. I wouldn't have minded seeing it pulled back just a little bit or just use a deeper connector. Now let's shift over into what I liked about the vsFighter, and there is quite a bit here. First and foremost, customizability. You can put your own artwork in there. There is a plexi to protect it. You can hot swap the micro switches, change them if you like. You can change the keycaps if you like, and those are all huge pluses. From a customizability perspective, there is a lot to do here. On top of that, you can update the firmware. The firmware included is open source, and that is huge. I also love the fact that the vsFighter works with the Nintendo Switch. Yes, the home button situation is a little awkward, and no, this won't wake up the Switch from a sleep state, but at the same time, it works beautifully when everything is up and running. And it also works absolutely amazing on PC. I was very, very impressed with it. While I said I didn't like the home button combination on the Switch, there's also a plus with their button combinations here because you can switch the D-pad mode and you can actually change the SOCD cleaning mode on the fly. The last thing I like about the vsFighter, and probably one of the best things it has going for it, is the fact that it's priced at $90. Being priced at $90 for a fight stick is very inexpensive. And now it comes to the big question, whether or not I'd recommend the vsFighter. If you're on the market for an all-button controller in the WASD format, then the answer here is yes. Yes, I would definitely recommend taking a look at this. This packs quite a bit of a punch for not a lot of money. Yes, it's not perfect, but it's also not that expensive. It does work with the Switch, it works with PC, and it works beautifully. On top of that, it's extremely customizable, and you might have a lot of fun with it. You can use it for fighting games. It's great for fighting games. It's also great for not fighting games. If you like to play platformers, if you like to use your keyboard, well, this is a great setup. And on a side note here, if you don't like the WASD style, well, Leafcutter Labs also offers the traditional hitbox style here, just with keycaps on it. I haven't tested these out, I don't know how good they are, but if they're anything like the vsFighter, well, 95 bucks for a hitbox style layout isn't too bad at all either. But anyways, that is all I've got for this video. Let me know your thoughts about the vsFighter in the comments below. Did you like what you saw? Did you not like what you saw? And what do you think about the customizability and the price? On top of that, if there's another fight stick you want me to take a look at, let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Thank you everyone, take care.